Hey, how's it going, everyone? We are back with another special interview, and we have a video coming out in a few, wrapping up this fundraiser event that we are running. Thank you once again for everyone that's contributed. Link will be down below, and the fundraiser will be concluding later this afternoon, probably a couple hours once this video is uploaded. But today we have Melina, a PKD patient and someone who is living on a kidney-friendly ketogenic diet while taking KetoCitra. We both went through the Renew program at different times, ran by the Kidney Nutrition Institute, which is now called the RISE program. And today we're going to be talking about various things about problems that we've had to really deal with and clear messages that there is a dietary approach to battling PKD for anyone watching, and also to really spread awareness as well, because you could very well potentially find yourself maybe in the same situation that we are in today. But Melina, please, introduce yourself. Tell us what you do, especially at Barbara Nutrients.
Yeah. Hi. I'm so glad to be here. Thank you for having me. And thank you so much for your efforts in raising awareness and raising the funds. I'm actually a scientist in the WIMES lab. So you raising these funds for the WIMES lab means so much. It will help us, moving the research forward and making discoveries in, for PKD research. So I'm super excited about this and so happy to be here. Yeah, as I said, I'm a scientist in the WIMES lab, a postdoctoral fellow, and I'm also part of Santa Barbara Nutrients. I'm the new scientific director of the Renew program that is now run by Santa Barbara Nutrients. So the nutrition program that we kind of both went through. And yeah, we're currently revamping the content and restarting that in the new year. So yeah, those are kind of my two roles currently.
Yep, and just to clarify, the RISE program will still be ran by the Kidney Nutrition Institute, and then this one is a separate from the two. So basically, there's two going to be two programs out there,
That's
which
right.
yeah, I mean, hey, there should be 200 of these programs out there,
Hmm.
in my
Hmm.
personal opinion. So taking really like the farthest step back, because obviously, you have family history. I have no family history. But I do want to, it's it's really different because first video that I made six 6 days ago now. I said I just have one mission. Don't really care about the analytics about the fundraiser. It's to spread awareness and talk to at least one person. So far, it's 16 people that I've talked to, and
Wow, amazing.
everyone's is some of those 16 are like, wow, I'm definitely taking this seriously. But all of them had family history. So there were no mutations. I guess that's what, the word on the forms are for people that, with no family history at all. We're called a mutation, also known, yeah, mutants. Not sure if I want to be Wolverine maybe or someone else, but um, still though, I just got really lucky. And I'm very humble, and that's one of the reasons why I'm doing this fundraiser is because if 2021 July, I thought I had appendicitis, went into I was actually living in Germany at a time on active duty of the military, and I was laying in there. I went through blood work. Everything came back normal, and it turned out to be a really bad groin sprain. And doctor was doing ultrasound. Yeah, no infection, appendix, but you got a whole bunch of cysts. Was going through a retirement process all throughout 2021, and then my health insurance transitioned. And I remember I was doing my physical 2023, told my new primary care doctor, and that's when we did the first ultrasound. But yeah, I mean, kidneys were functioning just fine. It's so it really came down to the MRI that I really held off, and I was really debating to not have that MRI back in May, but if I didn't, I probably would be in very bad shape in the next maybe like 4 or 5 years because obviously my kidneys were growing rapidly and stuff. So I guess I see online, and I know that you probably deal with this, on a daily basis. A lot of people with mutations, they tend to discover it later on because they don't have like a family history and stuff, right?
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. I knew it from really early on in childhood. So that was always clear that that would come my way someday. But yeah, that for people where it's just out of the blue, what a shock too. I can't even imagine.
Hmm. Yeah, it's one of those gut checks, but
Hmm.
um so my situation is a little different because obviously I took a stance, I'm a little bit of a stubborn human being. Sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, but I left my doctor's office. I'm like, there has to be another way. So grateful I found you all, and many other people too out there in the resources. And for you though, like, because I don't really have like, it's a hard message to convey to other people with mutations with no family history because you discover it when you're in really bad of a shape, or you're discovering it by out of the blue. What message do you have for people that are aware of like a family history, but they're unaware of like a dietary approach? Like what message can you convey to them?
Yeah, that is a great question. If you're aware, if you know you may have it because you have a family history, and there's very high chances that you do have it, right? If you do have it in your family, then I would first of all say, go, let's verify that you do have it,
Mhm.
and then take those small steps towards making changes. I think that's the best place to start. There are the nutritional interventions that are now, have been discovered for this disease are extremely powerful. And I look at this research every day. Where I'm confronted with it every day. I've read all the papers, obviously, because that's as a patient, obviously too, but also as a scientist of this condition. And it is incredibly powerful, and there's so much that you can do to prevent the progression. And the earlier you start, the better. And you don't need to, from one day to the next, you know, um, turn your whole life around, but just like start educating yourself about what's out there, and come to people like you and I, who are living this already, and get help, and really, dive into the science that's out there. Is always what I found when I first, really started to really have to think about it. I felt like there was this crossroad of I could ignore this, and just wait for things to happen eventually, or I could really dig my heels in, do the research, and really take control of it. And for me, taking control of it, has changed everything. It really, it helps me so much, even mentally, feeling like I have really control of something that people kept telling me I do not have control over, so that would be my advice, take control.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. The narrative out there for so many people and all throughout our history of really tracking this is that dialysis and a transplant is essentially the only road. And I mean, hey, it's I'm a very religious, spiritual human being. Dialysis just is not for me. I know it's not for many other people. Not to mention I've done my own, research on dialysis, and it's not something I want to put my body through. Um, but at the same time, you're essentially told like, hey, you just gotta wait until things go south, and to continue eating a lot of food as that contains a lot of things that are very inflammatory to you. Yesterday, I did some quick, grocery shopping, and one of the things that I did, and I really wanted to ask you about, the different changes that I kind of took and stuff from a scientific point of view, how each one may or may not, benefit. But I truly believe removing seed oils, because I know there's some debate on them, if they are inflammatory, if they're not. Some will actually say, you know, they're okay in moderation. And just be clear for everyone watching, I'm not a doctor, no medical background, definitely a marketer and a business dude. So I can only speak on, my own research, but do you know from a scientific point of view, like how much seed oils can or cannot contribute?
Yeah, so with seed oils, as with really all the things that they put in the ultra processed food these days, it's the amount almost, that
Hmm.
is the real problem. It's for example, sodium, right, is
Hmm.
really important for you. You have to eat sodium every day. It's really important for brain function and your body to function and everything. But ultra processed foods have 10 times the amount you should have in a day, and so it becomes, instead of this really, really important nutrient you need, it turns into something really destructive. And your sodium works really in harmony with potassium in your body. There's a lot of sodium and potassium channels that interact with each other, and now all of a sudden you have way more of this one, and then usually potassium we're usually deficient in modern society, because it's just that you would get from a lot of plants and whole foods, and that's reduced if you eat a lot of ultra processed foods. So that whole balance is disrupted. And the seed oils are kind of the same story. If you have a little bit of seed oils, so that are really high in omega-3, omega-6 fatty
Hmm.
acids, then that's going to be okay. But the problem is that it's in the ultra processed foods in such an high amount, and it's usually you don't get enough of those omega-3 fatty acids, which would be in whole foods like salmon and all of these other
Hmm.
things. So you're just creating this crazy imbalance with some of these compounds that then cause a lot of inflammation in the body and a lot of just imbalance. And then on top of that, obviously seed oils are also highly processed, and they go through this really intense extraction process that can cause a lot of really harmful side compounds produced on the side. So just overall, I think seed oils cause a lot of trouble, and that imbalance in general with the really high sodium content, the really high seed oil content, and phosphates is another one. All now it's so added in such a high amount into ultra processed foods that it's really just super destructive.
Yeah, that's one of the, it's if I had to really gamble, which one was the biggest contributor, it probably would have been, in my own opinion, just from all the research I've done, because I was very much deficient in a lot of these supplement, these electrolytes that we need so much. Not to mention, like you said, they're very high in sodium. I was taking 6,000 mg a day sodium. I couldn't
Oh,
even believe that. Now I'm
oh my goodness.
down, if I do intense workouts, I sodium load maybe 35, 3,600. But on a typical day, below 3,000. But, I'm very, active also. Um, so for people out there, especially with family history, and for someone that gets diagnosed, you would definitely recommend from a scientific point of view that, hey, seed oils, you should probably really cut back and or if not, maybe potentially if you want, like out of your diet entirely, right?
Yeah, and seed oils, along with just if you start with just thinking of ultra processed foods, they're going to go away. Most of it's going to go away already, because they're just put into all of those ultra processed foods, and they come with so many other problems
Mm-hmm.
like added sugar, which is
Yep.
obviously the big one. So when you just watch out for ultra processed, you're gonna get rid of a bunch right away, which is great. But I do agree. I would take out the seed oils. Would be one of the steps. But if you do that, then you will probably find yourself already eliminating a lot of foods that are ultra processed just because of that criteria alone.
Yeah, and on the list of stuff that I did and want to talk about, obviously removing 90% of sugar. Sugar is definitely, a huge one. The only sugar I'm really taking in now, I'm not taking any added, is just really from fruit. So,
Mm-hmm.
blueberries, strawberries.
Same here.
Um, yeah, very, very antioxidants. So I've propelled and turned, a lot of things from a inflammatory state to a anti-inflammatory state. Um, Taking out 90% of, sugar, carbs also, um, is because I do want to get to, KetoCitra because I do have so many things to talk about too. But is it more beneficial from like your findings to kind of really take out 90% of sugar and carbs and take KetoCitra, or rather be always pretty much in a ketogenic state, and completely modify your diet? Those are some of the questions that I was getting that I really couldn't answer to the 16 people because to be honest, changing your dietary habits is harder than anything you do on this planet, and you got to have motivation. You
You
obviously have
do.
motivation. I have motivation, but it's the hardest thing to do, harder than running marathons, climbing up hills, just anything. And a lot of people just don't want to go there. But yeah, if we could kind of hit on two things. One about removing a abundance of carbs and sugar, but kind of not staying on keto like all the time, while taking KetoCitra. And then the other option, which me and you are doing, we're on a kidney friendly keto diet, and we are taking KetoCitra. Are there downsides to either one?
So I think KetoCitra as a safety blanket, right?
Hmm.
If you don't do anything with your diet, you don't make any changes, and you're just starting to take KetoCitra, that's already better than nothing,
Hmm.
because it just comes with a lot of things that corrects deficiencies. It obviously gives you some of that beta hydroxybutyrate, that ketone that would be otherwise naturally produced from being in ketosis, and then the citric acid, which has benefits for urine pH normalization. So there's just a whole bunch of benefits that KetoCitra brings, and I always feel so much more secure having it, on the go with me when I'm, maybe can't make the ideal food choices because I'm, busy at work, or, at a conference or something where it's just, really hard to, do I have the right amount of oxalates and the right amount of sodium to
Hmm.
potassium ratio? Having the KetoCitra with me is already that little safety blanket that protects my kidneys from maybe a very stressful day, So that's already a great start. If nothing else, KetoCitra is already great. And maybe it's the first step you can take. If you're just starting out, start with KetoCitra. See how can incorporate into your day, and it also, I find it motivates me to drink more water, which is really important for
Hmm.
kidney patients as well, right? Because it just is, has a good taste. I put it up, up in a liter bottle and take that everywhere, so I just have it on the side with every meal. So it's just like, you're supposed to drink it with a meal, so it does actually have, this protective effects if you're maybe eating a little bit more oxalates or compounds that can be maybe challenging for the kidney, So, and then when you then have KetoCitra already, and then you start making dietary changes like lowering carbohydrates, upping your fat intake, and over time get into, removing ultra processed foods and all of that, like excess sodium and, excess harmful compounds out of your diet, that just like gets you better and better and better. I would say the ideal is to be in ketosis because you're producing so many, such high amounts of beta hydroxybutyrate, which is highly anti-inflammatory, and you have removed that sugar that can trigger cyst growth. That's kind of the ideal situation. I feel the best doing that, like I slowly turned my life around and now am living that, being in ketosis all the
Hmm.
time with KetoCitra, and this has made me feel the best. I, reduced all the inflammation in my body and have a lot more energy. But I understand that that's challenging, and especially when you're still in transition. So, starting with KetoCitra and then slowly thinking about what are you eating every day, taking that out of your diet to maybe eventually get to that ketogenic state is kind of what I would suggest. You can certainly take KetoCitra even if you're not yet in ketosis. In fact, that's the whole point, that it has that benefit, provides you those benefits even if you're not in ketosis yourself. Did that answer the question?
Yeah, and I do like the verbiage. It's a safety blanket, like you said, because so for me, the last little over 4 months now, um, and this is good and bad because it's affected my life in both ways. I work from home. It's have home office. Have that luxury. Downside, it can turn very antisocial at sometimes, but I was able to hand prepare every single meal. So I had full control of everything going into my body, and I was also taking, Ketocitra too. And just like you said, a lot of people they want to do this, but and if you ask me from my non medical point of view, it's it would be something where maybe people don't want to hear. It's like, hey, if you can't have a keto meal, well then you're fasting. You gotta go down that route. But obviously, vast majority and typical person is going to do that. And especially if you're out on the go and having this is kind of like a safety blanket because you are ingesting, a ketone supplement, which is just more ketones into you. And I have noticed that my ketone levels have been, I sometimes do get, a spike higher and stuff from, when I first started taking my readings. But yeah, I know that definitely does answer the question, and hopefully people that do have questions about that are answered. Um, Now I definitely want to go over the ingredients in here, and if you don't mind covering, Dr. Wimes did a very good job too, and I wish we could actually, I had more time with him, but unfortunately just couldn't. But really, all the components. One thing that led me to here is one, there's no drugs in here. I think that's probably the biggest thing. Someone like me that is really looking to live a drug-free life as long as I can. Obviously, if blood pressure cannot be controlled, then going to be forced to go on medication. But right now, I'm just riding the wave. Could you go over once again what each component in here pretty much, does for you and how it can really help you? Especially magnesium is huge. Never knew I had magnesium deficiency. And that was just
Most
a
people wouldn't,
show
yeah.
shocker. And in the vast majority, like an alarming number of Americans are deficient in magnesium. It's so hard to get.
Yeah. Yeah, and if you sometimes oh, I feel tired all the time, and it simply could just
Yep.
be that kind of little deficiency that you just never knew about, But if you don't know, that's not what you not typically get tested for that when you go to the doctor, which you should. That should be the first thing. But um, yeah, so I think important is also what's not in here, which is any sugar.
Hmm.
That is, even though it tastes very sweet, that's from the stevia, and it comes with this like really nice lemonade flavor. It doesn't contain any extra sugar, so that's super important. A lot of supplements out there have hidden sugars in it that are really harmful. Also, it doesn't have sodium, which is also really important. A lot of the ketone supplements out there, they have the ketone, the sodium ketone compound in there. So you actually, while getting the ketones, also get tons of sodium, which obviously as
Hmm.
kidney patients, we're already advised to, keep the sodium low. And you don't want to have a supplement that has tons of extra sodium. You want to still eat sodium, but you want to be in control of that and not take a supplement that comes with that. And then you have, but the ketone here is the beta hydroxybutyrate. That's the ketone that would be produced. That's the main ketone produced when you first get into ketosis. It's that alternative energy source, that the body uses instead of glucose. It eventually also leads to ATP production, right? That's energy that's used by the cells, and that you get tons of from this product. So even when you're fasting and you have a little bit of KetoCitra, it gives you that energy that maybe helps you through getting through through the fast, because it gives you a little bit of energy. And then we have really important, electrolytes in here, like calcium, magnesium, potassium, that are all really important for various different functions in the body. But those are things that we are in modern society often very deficient in. And it's great that this is supplied here with this product, because it just gives you that extra boost. And importantly, some of those harmful compounds for the kidney, the oxalates. I don't know if you covered that with Thomas in your other video, but oxalates are these plant defense compounds that you just ingest with eating plant foods like nuts and spinach, and we ingest them all the time. Which is not a problem if you have enough of calcium, for example, because calcium binds those oxalates and helps it be digested and not be absorbed to go to the kidney. But because we're deficient in calcium, magnesium, and all of this different other important compounds, people get kidney stones, because then, the oxalate make it to the kidneys. They're not bound by calcium, for example, and cause kidney stones. And kidney stones are very prevalent in our society. And for someone who doesn't have PKD, kidney stones are painful, but they just get excreted, or you maybe have to have some procedure. But for PKD patients, that can be just accelerate your disease like crazy, because now you're causing even more inflammation, and you're really accelerating that cyst growth. So what number one for us needs to be preventing those harmful compounds to accumulate in the kidney and form stones. And that's like the one, besides giving you that beta hydroxybutyrate, the KetoCitra gives you those extra protection by including calcium, and then also citrate, which is really important to also bind oxalate, as well as normalize urine pH, which is also a reason why stones can form if you have very acidic urine.
If someone is unable, like let's say vacation wise, right? You can't carry this on an airplane with you, or can't, go somewhere, with it. Um, is there anything else that you could potentially do to add in, like, because obviously you could bring a whole bunch, potassium. You can definitely maybe, ramp up some oh boy, I believe chicken has a lot of potassium, salad too. Um, Magnesium, that's going to be the hard one. And then the citrate, obviously. And if you're on vacation, yeah, it's most people on vacation is going to pig out. But for the citrate aspect, just because it's so important to break up, this these oxalates. Would lemon water, like at a restaurant, would that be something good to like have with like a meal and stuff?
There's all kinds of things. I actually do that all the time with my food. I still eat nuts, for example, because
Hmm.
they're higher in oxalates, and I like nuts a lot. I think they're really helpful on a keto diet. They're high in fats, but I never eat them just by themselves. I always pair them with some sort of in my case, I use a calcium source. So I always have like a Greek yogurt, and then have
Yeah.
my nuts in there, or with berries or something. That's actually the great thing. Once you have developed this awareness of what is in your food, what can cause harm, you also learn how to mitigate a lot of things. And it doesn't necessarily mean you need to cut things out. You just need to be mindful of how they're, paired together. And if you most of the time pair your high oxalate foods with either KetoCitra or a source high in calcium, then or citrate, you're going to really mitigate the risk of stone formation. So yeah, absolutely, that's totally totally a possibility, and it's something so important we teach in our nutrition program. Is this just as long as you have the education about your food, that you know the ingredients, and you know how to combine the foods in a smart way, you can really get rid of a lot of damage.
Yep. And the remarkable thing for me is that because I went into a ketogenic state end of May, early June. I did have the keto flu. You know, I completely detoxed entirely of like everything. It was a very miserable 2 weeks, but from May, my GFR was 111, and then retested again right before the Renew program, which is now the Rise one that I went through, and yeah, it ended up dipping, and that was before I started taking KetoCitra, and also before I believe I was probably in more of a deeper ketogenic state, but do people have to stay like very religiously like on a ketogenic diet? I'm not sure if you can answer, or I'd not know, or is keto say as long as they're taking the right supplements in Citra, they can essentially kind of like have like cheat meals, here or there. Because I do want, to hear about, your personal eating habits if you don't mind. Are you strictly like no cheat meals? Because after the New Year's, probably I'm gonna have fun on Christmas Eve and also Christmas Day because I haven't had a cheat meal now in 4 months. But I am looking to maybe have one or two per month and stuff. What necessarily do you do, and also like what can you convey people if they don't like actually want to stay strictly do it and stuff, but take KetoCitra.
Yeah, so I'm probably the most extreme case you're gonna meet. I pretty much I don't have cheat meals because they don't help me.
Hmm.
I just I, I used to be very addicted to sugar, and
Hmm.
I got past that, and then like I just feel so much better not having cheat meals, and it doesn't confuse me, and I don't like the ups and downs it produces, because then all of a sudden you introduce a lot of carbs again, and your body just is like fat adapted. So I just don't like how it makes me feel, and the struggle around when to plan it and everything. It's just for me, it's easier to just follow a strictly ketogenic diet without cheat meals. I never feel like I'm missing out or I feel restricted or because I just I get a lot of joy from the foods I eat. I learned how to prepare them in a way that they taste good to me. And they always make me feel like I'm doing something really good for my body. So I don't really have the desire to cheat and put toxins into my body,
Hmm.
because I also have such high awareness of what terrible things are in our food. But I do understand that that's not for everyone. And then people want to have, maybe eat their favorite high carb dish on Christmas or whatever it is. So, like I said before, if you're drinking KetoCitra alongside of that, you're already doing something good for your kidneys. Even if you then have a cheat meal, I understand that that's something that people want to be doing, and that's already better than not having KetoCitra alongside of it, right? Because you have that extra protection because of all of the different compounds in it. And I still, if you want to eat a little a meal higher in carbs, things like that, I would still try to make overall healthy choices. So you can have high carbohydrate foods that are better for you than others. So I would still pay attention to, is it ultra processed? Does it have all of these other chemicals in it? Or is it simply just mashed potatoes? That's still like a better food, a whole food that provides also some nutrients than some I don't know, some really high processed stuffing or something. So there's always a gradient of choices that people can make, and if you want to cheat then maybe try to still stick with healthier options and have your KetoCitra alongside of it. As I said, for me, it's just easier not to do that. I'm very open with my friends and family about it. That's how I'm living, and I don't anymore get that pressure of oh, just have a slice or something, whatever people hear all the time, you know. So that makes it also a lot easier, and I just don't have also those trigger foods in the house, you know, and just yeah, that's how I'm living it. But that would be my advice if you do want to have a cheat meal. Does that make sense? Did that answer the question?
Yeah, it's oh yeah, absolutely. And you know, there's different, I obviously for me, I do a lot of fasting. You know, people can, look at that as being, really extreme because I've been in a straight ketogenic, above zero point 0.5 since I want to say August 10th was my last pasta meal.
That's
So,
great.
and now seeing May up until August, because I was drinking a couple of times a month. Now I'm facing the hard decision. Gotta probably potentially part ways with my favorite, drink. But just seeing the results of just being very strict and for me, I get and other people out there, I totally get it. It's what you're willing to do. Um,
There's
but
I do actually 2 points I guess I kind of missed.
yeah,
One is that you know uh, the the diet is also what else you do in a day. Like you were saying, you fast a lot. So, if you've done a bunch of fasting and then you have a meal higher in carbs, that will probably be okay overall, because you're taking the whole food log from that whole day and you kind of prepared yourself to maybe handle that meal that's maybe not the best for your kidneys, but you just prepared, and then maybe afterwards you also do more fasting, so you can kind of balance that a little bit. And then also, I do want to stress how you feel. It's so important, For me, these foods are not tempting anymore just because of the way I feel now. I came from feeling terrible. I had chronic inflammation,
hmm
all kinds of different versions of it, like back pain, knee pain. I'm 32. So it's crazy that I had that much amount of, just chronic stuff going on at such a relatively young age. I had constantly urinary tract infections. I had kidney
Oh
infections. I
wow.
ended up in the hospital with kidney infections. It was really, really bad. Like every other month, I had something. I was on antibiotics all the time.
hmm
It just was just, and now, like from how I was feeling then to now, is I'm a new person. I feel like a new person. I have so much more energy. I have no pain at all anymore. I just get to live my life again, and it just made such a big impact that I don't care about the cookie I can't eat. I'm just like the feeling I have now is so powerful. Like I wouldn't even want to go back there. I don't miss any of it because it really caused me to have all of these problems. So that's something I want to stress, that it's so hard to convey when you haven't gone through that transition to outline the benefits you're going to get, and that's why I'm living this extreme version that some people would think is
hmm
extreme just because the way it makes me feel.
No, I've been living that for the last four months, and just
Mm-hmm.
like you said, you're reaping benefits to the extreme, and even though you're not the extreme taking KetoCitra, you still see tons of benefits and stuff, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm definitely like even the urine pH, that's something that's just a side effect of PKD for most
Yeah.
people that we just have acidic urine, and just correcting that alone, but for me it led to a lot of like symptom improvement. And so for me it's really hard to, because I started the keto diet along with KetoCitra, really hard to
hmm
decipher which one did which, to what degree, but I did both at the same time, and it changed my life. It really did.
So I was going to be respectful because I did want to know how old you are, but you did already answer that. Um, when you started down this journey, do you know what your GFR was, or was it still like relatively high like mine?
Yeah, I have full normal kidney function. So that's why that was so frustrating, because I didn't even have kidney decline, even, right? Because
Hmm.
I'm on the usually, I mean, it varies for everyone, but usually more like closer to 40 is when you maybe start seeing more, at least that's also the trend in my own family. So I was still full kidney function. That wasn't the problem, but I had all of these other problems. And I mean, PKD already, there's inflammation happening in your body. And when you then put extra stuff into your body that causes more inflammation, it's just going to give you accelerated symptoms of even just simple aging, right? Like back pain and things that you didn't even. And some people are just like, oh, I just have back pain, but it's the food you're eating that's causing this, which is so crazy to think about. It's
Hmm.
obviously exercise also plays a big role, but I think the food is first. Making changes with your nutrition is first. It can already get rid of so many things that cause just daily pain, even outside of PKD.
When 110%. Do you know your kidney size by like images and stuff, or
Yeah.
I'd also like cyst burden too, and you're also PKD1 because I'm getting genetically tested here in the next couple months, but from the cyst burden, my renal doctor pretty much said, it is more than likely PKD1, but because you do have a family history, there's a chance it could potentially be PKD2, right?
I
But
actually have to say I don't actually fully know, but just the cyst burden is the same. I think it's PKD1. Yeah,
okay.
I think so. Yeah.
Are your kidneys currently enlarged and stuff, or are they?
Yeah, so I had actually something very similar that you described earlier on in the video. I got I did ultrasounds, right, which aren't,
Mhm.
as you already said, the most accurate. And if you go to different people doing it or different machines, different countries, there is a lot of you know error that might occur. So it's not the most accurate. But I was diagnosed with an ultrasound in officially diagnosed. Like I always knew I had it, but officially diagnosed using an ultrasound in 2018, and there was no question, right? It's just everywhere in my kidneys and my liver as well, and which is a common side effect. and and since then, I've gone like about once a year to get an ultrasound done, and every year they were just a little bit bigger. I think they started at
Mhm.
like 12. My left is always bigger for some reason, so my right side was I think started at 12 centimeters in length, and then the left side was at 13 centimeters or something in 2018, and then every year, and then we were 14, 15. The largest they ever got was 18 and 19 centimeters. That was my measurement in 2022. And then I started the diet change. I started January 2023, full, though that's when I did the program. I did, started taking KetoCitra. And then I got my next ultrasound, not for like a long time, actually. I only got it a year and a half later, this summer, actually, summer of 2024. And the measurements, now granted, we're in a, different, hospital, maybe different measurements system or whatever, but I was at 14 and 12.
Oh
So
wow.
from 1918 to 14 and 12, which even if you like consider all of these things, like different hospital, different person doing the measurement, like that can't be just random, right? Like that, I was actually shocked because I had just seen a really typical increase, and then it just like dropped to a much lower size. And honestly, that's how I feel too, like less pressure, less pain. So I really, just from the way I feel, I believe those measurements, right? But we still need to be cautious, and we need to confirm it with like the gold standard and
Hmm.
everything. But I wouldn't be shocked that if that's actually the true measurement now, or that it goes down over time, because I've just removed all the triggers like crazy out of my life, and the things that make this grow. So, um, and it fits with the research, that's been shown in animals, different animal models, as well as in humans now, like some preliminary clinical trials. So, um, yeah, the measurements were, it was a very good day.
Um, getting to the end here, I did want to harp on more of the scientific and your job and stuff. If you have any upcoming studies that you could share and could benefit PKD patients in any way, shape, and form, and also past ones that you've seen, because I think our Dr. Wimes in my self interview kind of got cut a little short when we were diving into some of the case studies, but past studies that you have seen to be like the most effective.
Yeah, so so the way I actually even learned about this was the Dr. Wine's research, right? He had that big study come out in 2019 where they tested three different animal models, mice, rats, and cats, and they showed that the diet, intermittent fasting, and supplementing with beta hydroxybutyrate all separately massively reduced PKD progression and even reversed some of the damage that had been done, which had never been seen before, right? That's something I want to stress. This is the first time someone has shown that PKD can actually be not just like slowed down, but reversed, which was just mind blowing. Since then, there's one big clinical study that is already completed that came out of Cologne, Germany. They did they wanted to do really just a feasibility study to see if people can adhere to the ketogenic diet. And it was comparing people on a control diet and the ketogenic diet, and just for 3 months, which isn't a long time, right? Like it's to change your whole metabolism and everything. And they found that first of all, people were able to stick to it, but even in 3 months, they saw that their kidneys got smaller and their kidney function improved, which again, we're talking about a disease that had never been no one had ever shown to slow things down or even reverse, right? Which is, to me, is amazing, right? Unfortunately, in the medical community, they want to see the really big long-term clinical studies, and that's why most nephrologists refrain from giving any sort of advice in the nutrition category, because they just, oh, I need to see a long-term study. Well, those long-term studies are now ongoing. There's one in Japan that's already ongoing, where people are going through the same program you and I went through, and they're taking KetoCitra, and that one will go over 2 years with follow-ups and everything. So hopefully once that's done, and all of the other ones that are now in planning as well, that's enough evidence for the medical community finally to get on board and actually recommend these lifestyle changes before recommending anything else to their patients. And in terms of what we're planning next from out of the Wimes lab is to also kind of go with that same direction. We need to have more evidence that convinces the medical community that this is real. And one way to do that is understanding the underlying mechanism. What is beta hydroxybutyrate doing to the cysts, to the body in general, that is so powerful to prevent PKD progression? And I'm actually a trained immunologist, so my whole thing is the whole inflammation angle. I want to study which cell types, which immune cells are specifically affected in the kidney and in circulation from taking BHB, and how does that change the whole inflammatory environment in the body. And I think the immune system is the key here, and if we can really show that mechanism, it again is another piece of evidence that will convince the medical community that this is a real positive impact.
And real quick before we wrap up here, correct me if I'm wrong, but ketones are antiviral too, right?
They are anti-inflammatory but also immune. They stabilize the immune system, so
Okay.
the immune system is a little bit better equipped to handle viral infection. You're just generally more. They're not. It's a weird mix between anti-inflammatory, but
Yep.
also depending on which cell type you look at, it actually makes them more capable of handling things like a viral infection.
I haven't got my yearly sickness, which normally is around Thanksgiving, is I get sick once a year. I never got sick. So
I haven't gotten
I
sick in since I started this diet, not once.
yep. No, it's
Yep.
pretty amazing.
Yeah, it
Um
is.
it's I just want to say thank you once again. And also everyone who's contributed to the fundraiser so much. Uh, thank you, Melina, and please
Thank
thank
you.
Dr. Wimes once again too for everything that he does, and please just continue fighting for everyone out there, and hopefully we get get some great support in the soon to near future from the medical establishment out there.
That is the hope. That's what we're aiming for. Thank you again for having me here and for raising the funds. It really means a lot.
Yep, thank you.